Hello, welcome to Global Business. I am MwjDx7NqfPs. We'll say congratulations to Godwin Emefiele as he starts his second term next month. That's June. Beyond all that, on Talking Point, we're going to be looking at the energy sector. The energy sector is something that has been of great concern to Nigeria. Not just the energy sector, but the extractive sector, actually. Beyond all that, we'll be looking at the extractive sector, the Nigeria's extractive sector. What are the issues with the extractive sector? How do we make the extractive sector to benefit or get us the greatest benefits for us as Nigerians? We'll be looking at that with some members of the expert panel of the Nigerian Natural Resource Charter, which is a non-governmental organization that is committed to getting the best and having principles, a set of principles to getting the best in the Nigerian extractive industry. We're talking to them. Some of the faces you know, some of the faces you'll just get to know on this program. It's a packed program on global business. So just stay tuned, listen, and learn.
As they say, part and parcel of the problem. All right. So again, it's a double whammy for Nigerians, for ordinary citizens. You cannot extract the real value of your products, of your extractive products, oil, mining, whatever it is, right? Because your own government has decided that it's going to steal from you with collaborations from international governments. So the answer again is no, unfortunately. But this is what we're trying to put out in a systemic manner. No name calling, no blame throwing. This is just the systemic challenges we have ahead of us.
The first thing is that the whole attitude to the oil sector does not encourage transparency and accountability, really. As long as the oil sector is seen as the instrument for supporting political activities, for providing some emergency aid to the security forces that you are reluctant to take to the National Assembly, for augmenting the security votes of the president. I mean, that's how the oil sector is seen. And as long as the appointment to the position of the GMD is political also, and that the board itself does not play the role of a board, a proper board, you're likely not to have transparency, really, and you're not likely to have green in that area. It's not about one particular concept. It's about the general attitude and the role that oil plays in our politics and in our economy. In our economy first, and also in our politics. It encourages opacity or opaqueness rather than transparency.
The fiscal terms on paper, okay, does that, but in reality there's some problems, especially in attracting well-known firms to invest in that sector, because Nigeria is not the only country with oil or mineral resources. So there's need for some adjustment. But the adjustment is such that will enable, in my view, potential domestic investors to be part of that, part of the industry. Yes.
So does this also apply to returns to government? In
terms of returns to government, government makes a lot of returns on the oil sector because it's fiscal regime. In fact, it's the ISNR of revenue for government. Yeah? So in terms of returns, the government makes enough, in my view. But in terms of encouraging others to get into that area, if more people get into that area, into that sector, by a little bit flexible fiscal regimes, government could make more returns.
I think there are several areas where there's a conflict of interest in NNPC. We've had at least 2 presidents that have been de facto ministers of petroleum. And being an executive and being the de facto minister of a particular ministry is not, in my books, transparent or accountable. That means whoever is at the helm of affairs chooses to do what they want when they want, and he has no power above him for checks and balances. And then the junior minister in that same ministry is appointed politically. So it's not based on his competence or his years of experience in the business or his ability to add value. It's usually somebody who they think has a political stake and will do the bidding of the executives. So in those areas, I think it's not possible to have the transparency and accountability and the kind of corporate governance that we need in the extractive industry, especially since we have a single state-owned enterprise that is funding the entire budget of the country. So if the person isn't as good as they should be, who is the person who calls that person to order? Does he have a strong enough board with competent people on the board that can add value to what he's doing and how he's doing it and can challenge some of his views as to how to run the industry? Those are the kind of things that I see that we're lacking in substantially in the state-owned enterprise in Nigeria.
The two major reasons why that has been so is one, the absence of trust between the stakeholders, local communities, multinational corporations, and the government. There is no trust between these groups in terms of what the intentions of oil exploitation is, and the people don't believe that the government and the multinational corporations have their interests in oil exploitation. So this has created a tense relation between companies, governments, and the local communities. The local communities believe that government is just there to extract without putting back. The companies and the local and governments believe that local communities are asking for too much, that they've already given too much. So that is a critical point here, and we see this as arising from inability of the government itself to communicate clearly. And we believe there's need for a better communications approach. The second factor for this is really institutional. The fact that institutions that have been established over the years to address local concerns have not delivered optimally. And so there is a clear failure from the eyes of the communities, and actually, objectively speaking, for several of these institutions to be able to respond effectively to concerns. For instance, the NOSDRA, the National Oil Spill Detection and Response Agency, was established to create a framework through which reports of oil spills are effectively responded to and remediated. But NOSDRA is not well resourced and lacks that capacity to do that. And so the intentions of actually having effective response has been undermined by that. That is just an example. So there's an institutional failure even in the context of those institutions established.
You have a very good fiscal regime. It's supposed to do that. Okay? It's supposed to provide sufficient take for government, and then to also attract investment, into the sector. But there are a lot of people who have questioned the existing fiscal regime in Nigeria with respect to the upstream sector in particular, or petroleum sector generally. That the fiscal regime that is existing now does not deliver the best for government. I don't know whether it's delivering the best for for company, but presently the government is presumed not to be having sufficient revenue or what is entitled to if you have defined a fiscal regime that actually try to maximize government take without compromising the investment in the sector.
You've seen it, and now you know better about the Nigerian extractive industry. But you can drop us a line on any of our social media platforms, which is on your screen right now. Of course, you can also send us a mail. It's globalbusiness@gmail.com. globalbusiness @gmail.com. I am MwjDx7NqfPs. Do business well this week, and remember, it's always nice doing business with you.